Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Fearless Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lynne, and today I am very thankful to have my friend Mariel Mayz on. Mariel, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you today. I've wanting to have you on for a long time because of your amazing career and how you've been building so many wonderful different projects. You're a pianist, you live in New York, and we just got the chance to hang out in real life a couple months ago, which was really
Yes.
great. But we know each other from your festival primarily, which is why I specifically invited you on today. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a bit about you.
Thanks. So I'm Mariel. I am a pianist and I'm a composer and I do a million miscellaneous things in the middle from teaching, educating, and doing administrative work and work with festivals, including a festival that my husband and I started together. That's called Porto Piano Fest, and it takes place in Porto, Portugal.
Woo, one of the best places to have a festival, I have to say.
We think so.
I know so because I've attended this festival twice and I've had the best time at both times. I've highly enjoyed eating everything there and the pastéis de nata. And I didn't enjoy the
Yes.
steps though. Porto, brutal with the stone stairs
Very
everywhere.
steep. Very steep.
I remember making these Instagram stories and I was like huffing and puffing, trying to tell people, like, guys, I've walked 20,000 steps today and I'm going uphill all the time in Porto.
Yes, yes. And whenever you think, you can basically take all of your directions and say, is it uphill or is it downhill? It's like here in New York, we'd say, okay, are we going north, south, uptown, downtown? And it's like uphill, downhill.
Oh, that's so funny. That's amazing. Yeah, so we actually met in Gijón, and I
Mm,
think that was maybe 5 years ago,
maybe
2016,
more.
2015, something
Maybe
around
around
there.
then. Yeah.
And, then you told me about your festival and that my teacher would be teaching there, so that, of course, was, like, the only selling point I needed because I just adore Jean with everything, so I
Yeah.
was like, "No
Yeah.
problem." I was like, "Yeah, sign me up. I'm coming next summer." So I would love for you to share with us, like, the inception story of Porto Piano Fest. You run it with your husband, as he shared. So, yeah, what led to you guys creating your own festival?
Yeah. So now this was about 10 years ago. Um, Nuno is his name. Nuno Marquez is our artistic director, and I am associate director of the festival. And the festival started at a diner, and we were sitting down having whatever you eat at diners,
I love
probably a
this.
burger. Um, and we wanted to combine really what we felt was the best of the two musical worlds that we had been living in. So, to give a little bit of context, I mean, I'm from New York. I grew up in the States. I've always lived in the US, and I come strictly from this North American music education system. And hearing Nuno talk at the time, he was not my husband, and we were friends, and he would talk about his musical education coming from Europe. And he grew up in Portugal, went through the system there in Portugal, and then ended up moving to London and did some studies there as well. And just the differences between both of our education systems, I definitely felt a little bit of FOMO, like, oh my gosh, I wish I had so much of that. But then at the same time, he was looking at the experiences that happen here in the system here. And he was thinking, oh, wow, this is also really different and experiences that he was just starting to have because when he came to New York, it was also to study. So we were talking about a place where we could bridge both of these things as best as possible from a pedagogical standpoint, from just a pianistic standpoint as well. We had been going to different festivals, the two of us in different places, and we recognized the importance of summer festivals and festivals in
Mm,
general.
yeah.
And just as an incubator for meeting people, for just getting to present yourself in a way as a young artist, presenting yourself in a way that's different from your home context. Of course, like meeting the pianists and artists of your own generation, but also of the one above you, the one below you. It's really a place, these festivals tend to be this unique circle where everybody can just cohabitate and learn
Yeah.
together.
Gather.
And we think that it's so, so special, and we've always felt this way, and so, of course, when we're talking all this through, we're like, "I think we need to start a festival," which is
Amazing.
a bit of, like, a wacky thing to try to do, but, of course, our initial idea was to bring teachers together that we really respected, and then create this community environment with different musicians at different stages and just have a place where everyone can have lunch together, go to a concert together, practice in the same space. That was really the main idea. It started as only 3.5 days, really, barely 4 days of a festival, just like a long weekend where we had our guest teachers. We had a couple of concerts by our guest artists. We had a concert by our student participants. And then it was over. We were like, this is great. We love this. And
Like an extended weekend of Piano Fest.
exactly, an extended weekend. And then year after year, it started growing into this larger animal that now lasts for almost 2 weeks. This year will be 12 days of festival from
I
August
didn't know that.
1st to the 12th.
Okay, wow.
And each year it feels like it's really developed naturally and grown in unexpected but very natural ways. So that's a little bit about how we got this started.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing all of that. It's such a beautiful story. Sitting at a diner. I'd love to hear more when you're talking about the differences that Nuna was recognizing between the New York and the Porto pedagogy, as you're saying. Like,
Mhm.
what were those differences?
Well, first was the difference just in systems, like a public system versus a private system was really the main difference. So, for better for worse, my experience being just within a private music education system where you have to pay for all your lessons out of pocket, you have to kind of find your own place and opportunity. That's where I had come from, but because of that, I wasn't locked into any sort of system, let's say. Right? So I had my piano lessons growing up and I loved them, but I never thought like, oh, this is going to lead somewhere else until much, much later. I didn't think of it as a career place. It tends, at least I can speak within the US, there's a big push for music education, which is great, but music education not to necessarily become a musician, for ways to help you get into, for example, higher education, into colleges, a way to make yourself stand out
Mhm.
on applications for other things, which is not a bad thing. It's a great thing
Right.
because people recognize the critical thinking skills that you develop learning
Yeah.
music, critical thinking skills, and so this extracurricular feeling of music. And so, because of that, I was a little bit all over the place as a pianist growing up. I wouldn't have even said, oh, I'm a pianist. I would have just said,
Right.
like, oh, I'm a kid. I play the piano. But it opened a lot of other doors because I wasn't locked into a particular school. I just had a private teacher. I was taking lessons. I was taking jazz lessons. I was taking improvisation lessons because I liked it. I was accompanying choirs from a very, very young age because my parents recognized, like, oh, you should play outside of your lessons. You should do something. I was playing in a lot of church contexts. So, everything from a young age, I felt like I was just building myself. I didn't have other peers or other students around me that were doing the same thing because I wasn't part of a music school. But because of that, I missed out on a lot of things that happened within the system, for example, that Nuno grew up in, where he had weekly ear training, theory, chamber music. He had a group of colleagues that he grew up with
Mm.
in his music education, which is a beautiful thing. And it's something I really wish I had, even just the discipline of practicing in a certain way where you have people around you that are all practicing together. You're in your conservatory, whatever day
Yeah,
of
the
the week you
European
might be there.
conservatory style. Yeah.
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 So I think that answers your question just a bit about the differences. And it's not to say that one was necessarily better than the other because we grow up the way that we grow up. But it was just interesting to recognize those differences. And even now, looking back, I used to be so jealous. Like, I really wish I had that sort of ear training skills. I really wish I was more disciplined when I was younger. I wish I had this or that in more of a strict conservatory setting, but that wasn't
Mhm.
the case. And now that time has passed and I can look back, I can say, okay, I am still also a product of the flexibility that I had,
Mhm.
and the influences that were a little bit more open have certainly come into play in in my life now, especially with teaching and especially with this festival and with writing my own music too.
Yeah, composing too, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how is Porto Piano Fest combining these 2? I didn't know this, by the way. This is, like, so interesting to me.
Yeah, the first is with the teachers that we bring.
Mhm.
Like, so we have teachers that are from Europe, but perhaps teach in the States. We have teachers from Canada. We have teachers that are that studied in the UK but are now in Europe. So we feel like the mixture of our artist faculty brings all that together.
Yeah.
And in terms of atmosphere, that's also what we try to bring together. We all consider ourselves very serious musicians,
Yeah.
but we don't want a rigid, competitive, serious in a negative way atmosphere for our summer festival. We encourage people to talk about things, to just go have lunch, to express their opinions about concerts and music and where they come from in a more open environment. So that's how we feel. We do mix things together, and the people that come from all over, and we think that they feel this family oriented atmosphere too.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely attest to that because it is such a family feeling when you come, and it's very welcoming, and you even do, extracurricular activities, like you did the wine tour,
Hmm.
took us to the Taylor's Port,
Yes.
and, yeah, we get to sightsee around Porto, and, there is a very good strong sense of community. Also, I think a lot of performing opportunities you guys offer at your festival.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for mentioning that. So part of it is also trying to create things that we wish we had, right? And one of the best things, if you see that there's a gap somewhere, create what you think is missing, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of performance opportunities for guests and participants alike, one of the main missions of our festival is what we tend to say is firstly having exclusive concerts. So for our guest artists, or we have different series. So we have a master series, we have a new music series, chamber music series. For the guests that come and play concerts, we want to curate something that is specific for our festival. We're less interested an artist that's been touring the same program 100 times around, and then we're one more notch on their tour. We want the artists that come to have an opportunity to maybe revamp what they normally do, or to have the opportunity to present something different. Or if you're very known for playing Bach, but you want to play Debussy in this concert, this is the place to do it. Our festival is the place to do it. It gives also not the highest named artists that feeling that you have to be in the 1% top artists in the world to perform at our festival. We're trying to give opportunities to artists that come from all over, that are amazing, that are great, who have artistic integrity. But they might not be a household name, and that is great with us.
Yeah.
And secondly, on the participant side, giving opportunities for performances. So we do have um, two different teaching programs. We have a master class program, but we also have an artist in residency program. And our artists in residence tend to be on the verge of expanding their careers. They're high level advanced pianists, usually at the end of their schooling, and we give them the opportunity to present full length recital programs. So it's about 45 minutes of music of a program, which is rare for a festival, where sometimes you only get to play one piece in a group recital.
Yeah.
For our artists in residence, we have a select group, and they propose programs for our festival, and we give them the opportunity to make their debuts in Porto, sometimes their debut in Europe with our festival, presenting works that put together specifically for a solo recital program.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, your festival is so multifaceted. I think it's good to just elaborate a bit because you have artists coming in to give concerts, but then you also have the participants giving concerts,
Mhm.
and then the people in the masterclass are also doing an end of the program concert.
Exactly.
So tons of stuff going on all the time. Yeah, I remember Nuno and Laura did a beautiful song recital last summer, and it was outside, and the sun was setting, and it was just the most stunning atmosphere, and like the birds, and it was really cool. You guys are doing really cool, and I think some of your compositions were also performed last summer?
They were, yeah.
Yeah,
They were. That was a special concert too, and that was a collaboration between Nuno and a soprano. They've been friends for a long time, and they've been working on this project where they commissioned different composers to write art song based on Portuguese poetry. So it was the first time they were presenting that in Portugal, and it was just an exciting moment for all of us to be there to see it.
yeah, absolutely, and they also presented in New York, right?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
they had done a run in New York and DC before the summer, and
yeah,
then brought it for a full evening concert in Porto.
that's amazing. So, when you started Porto Piano Fest, like, could you imagine it going this direction? How do you feel now that I mean, because it's amazing what you guys are doing.
Oof. I think both Nuno and myself would say no, we couldn't imagine it. I think it's maybe hard to see so far in the future. I think we hoped that it would be successful, and from the beginning it wasn't so much about like let's make a successful festival. It was more we want to be here and stick around here every year. And that's still how we feel about it. Our idea, and we tell people, we tell our supporters, we tell the people in Portugal, and we talk about the festival. We're like, we're here to stay. We're here. Like, this is our goal is to be here and every year to do something that's meaningful to the community, meaningful to the local community, but also to our artistic, pianistic, and musical community. So that was always a thought from the beginning, like, we're not going anywhere. Of course, the first year, the second year, everything is like trial and error and error and ever and error. And even some other friends of ours who run festivals and events like this, they say, oh, after year 4, it'll be like clockwork, smooth sailing. Oh, after year 5, you'll just know what you're doing. But every year we feel like, okay, here we go. It's always something different, always something new is happening in the world, happening with
Yeah.
the structure, happening with the weather. You never know. So it doesn't feel like we're okay, just one more year, let's do it again. It never feels like that. And we kind of love that too.
Oh, wow. There's so much to share here. This is so great. Can you talk a little bit about these errors? Like, what are things that just totally threw you that you didn't expect that would come from organizing these events?
Oh, there are probably like in terms of errors, like tedious details that aren't worth even sharing, but
But
having
like a funny
having
story or anything that
yeah, having realistic timelines can be
okay,
really
okay.
difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, project.
Yeah, project management and planning
Yeah.
is not easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to learn how your teammates like to work.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
is definitely something that takes a lot of time. So, for example, sometimes when we're working within the team, I'll get a phone call and it's our teammate that says, there's been something like something is terribly wrong. It's a disaster. Right.
'Kay.
I'm like, oh my gosh, what is it? But now, after a few years of working together, I know that this team member, it's like, oh, when he says it's a disaster, it's because he's stressed, but it's totally fixable, right? But if we
Right.
all have the alarm going off, we're all going to panic.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and these are things like learning how your team members work, learning how your staff manages stress is something they can't teach you in a book.
And I mean, I'm sure all the cultural differences are coming into play here too. Like, I know, response times for emails can vary widely, from Europeans to New Yorkers, for example.
Yes.
Uh, Getting things accomplished, you're saying, planning things in a certain amount of time. How many people are on your staff, by the way?
Yeah, so we do have 3 full-time people that are on the team. We
Okay.
have a board, and then we have our part-time staff that are contracted for specific times during the year.
Okay. Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
So
So
it's a small team, but
what's something that you had to learn or, like, adjust to with having all of these different cultural personalities, cultural differences on the same team to run the festival?
yeah, so how people work, how people manage stress. Of course, for me, it's there is a language barrier since Portuguese is not my first language.
I have
Um,
heard you order perfectly in Portuguese, so I just wanna tell everybody, like, last
well,
year at
I
our
can order a
restaurant.
great meal.
Yeah, you did. It was awesome.
Yeah, ordering at restaurants, I'm a pro.
Yeah.
Food vocabulary, I learned that really quickly.
But you also presented a concert really beautifully too, I heard.
Thank you,
But
thank you.
yes.
With the language barrier, of course, at times I'm translating directly. I'm translating exactly how people are speaking to me word for word. And in my head, my English speaking brain, sometimes it feels very blunt um,
Okay, in Portuguese, okay.
in Portuguese.
I
And
have that from the Dutch for sure, so
mm,
yeah.
yeah, and I think maybe just my way of speaking, or I don't know if it's a general way of speaking in the States because people can be very blunt too. But I think I have more disclaimers in my speech.
You are a very sweet-natured person, so that's probably it. I was surprised when I found out you were a New Yorker because 'cause I'm like, "No way. You're way too sweet and,
No,
like,
that's very nice.
very diplomatic with all of your answers and"
Yeah, but everything is a little bit softer.
yeah.
Sometimes it's not getting to the point, which I see now with new eyes. Sometimes it's like avoiding difficult conversations by using some more flowery words. And I've had to learn that sometimes I need to be a lot more direct. But
Okay.
when I'm translating immediately from Portuguese, sometimes my reaction is, wow, are they very upset? Or did they really not like that? Or are they upset with me? And
Right.
it's taken time to not take things personally, to know that
Mm,
that's how people speak and it's
yeah.
okay, and that it's not always a bad thing to be very direct. Even if it's sometimes good just to
Yeah.
express what you mean from the get-go. So that was definitely a personal learning curve and something I'm still getting used to when I'm translating in my own head.
Yeah, that's not easy. I mean, luckily Nuno is Portuguese, so I'm sure you
Mhm.
can, run things by him and be like, "Hey, what did that person mean?"
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think one of the challenges I've had as a very sensitive, emotional artist, doing business things is understanding that you have to take the emotion out of business sometimes, and it's just, like, getting the business thing done, and I've had a tendency to, like, be way too emotional about things. So Deanna and I have had to work through that too, where, she's like, "This is just business, like, we just have to
Yeah.
do this," and I'm like, I wanna have, like, a meltdown or something because it's like so, yeah, learning to separate those 2 things and, like, look at the numbers or look at the Excel sheets and just black and white a little bit of objectivity or distance. I've had to
Exactly.
to learn that too.
Exactly. And from a performer artist perspective, it gets really hard to do these sorts of administrative things because you do feel like the guests that come, right? When you're surrounded by musicians that you admire so much. I mean, that's why we bring them for the festival. We admire their artistry so much. We admire them as people. Sometimes it's really easy to feel less than
Mm,
and to think like, "Oh, well, what am I doing? I'm just the organizer here. Like I don't have artistic value in the face of all of these great people." So it's also been a learning experience and really important to be able to say, "I'm doing this and I'm good at this, and this is just one aspect of my life." And it doesn't mean that I'm not a good musician. Like, it doesn't mean I don't have places to grow. Of course, I'm still learning and still improving as an artist and a musician, but it's also good to separate yourself and to say, like, these people are not judging me and looking at my artistic merits and looking like, "Oh, who's this girl that's just organizing?" I used to think that so much, and now time goes by, and I can have a little bit more confidence and know that I do this festival, this is something that's part of our day-to-day work. I love doing it.
yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm emotional because that's, like, so close to my heart too. Like,
Mm,
not being the top 1%, I think, like, we were taught our whole lives that that is what success is, like, being that top 1%, and so if you're not and so for me, like, running the Fearless Artist and coaching musicians, and it is such an easy lie to come in that says, like, the artistic value, that's what you're saying.
yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we're not a good pianist. We are more than a musician, and this is, like, something that's so close to my heart. Sorry.
No,
So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's really
yeah.
beautiful.
It was,
And
oh, just as a small wake-up call for me because one of my teachers and mentors comes to the festival, and I admire this person so, so dearly that sometimes I think, "Oh, they're not going to like me or respect me as a person because I'm not playing as well as I should." And we also have to know that for our own teachers and mentors and people that we admire artistically, yeah, they're going to acknowledge the places where we need to improve musically. That's what they're good at, and that is their
It's their
job.
job.
That's their job.
Yeah.
And I can't think that doesn't mean that they don't like me as a person. And
Or
so,
that they're judging you for being less than
exactly,
what you said should be, could be.
exactly.
I think that's very, very profound. And also because they wouldn't be able to be shining on stage teaching all of these students if nobody was organizing the festival. So the
That
gift
too.
of administration, I mean, you could argue like these are equally important and necessary gifts. Like without the capacity for them to be promoted or out there or meeting people or building the network in the community or the festival, all of the structures that you put into place, the financing. I mean, I don't want to think about how you guys have to fundraise and pull off all of the money of the side of the festival. Without all of that, all of these incredible artists don't get the chance to be on the stage. So,
Right.
I mean, I think probably if you ask them, there's an equal amount of respect and gratitude. But because of how we were brought up with this really high standard and perfectionism and what success means and, being the number one, I think sometimes that can get twisted.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So when a musician would have an idea like, I want to start a festival, is there something that you would suggest to them to start thinking of in advance, something that maybe you wish you had known sooner or a small piece of advice for them?
Yes. Talk to people. Tell
Okay.
people your ideas. I think we get very afraid that, oh, I have this good thing and someone's going to steal it, or somebody's going to judge me for it, or it's something I don't know how to do. And the best way to conquer that is actually to talk to people about it. Talking to our colleagues, other pianists, other musicians, our teachers, our mentors has been the biggest gift because sometimes they say the smallest thing that you would have never thought about.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what really gets things started. Um, and that's also where people will surprise you and help you. And that's what that's what we need. These sorts of endeavors, especially something like a festival, a concert series, even just presenting a concert for yourself, it's really hard to do alone. Of course, our festival started because Nuno and I were talking about it. And
Yeah.
then we approached, a professor about it. And then it spiraled from there. Even one of our core team members, in our very first year, he was just a freelance photographer, not just, but he was starting out and trying
Yeah.
his hand at freelance photography. And we said, okay, well, why don't you try it here? We don't know what we're doing. You kind of know what you're doing. Let's just all
Let's do it together.
let's all just be confused and lost together. Um, and it turned into something amazing where now he doesn't just take photos, he's really our producer person on the ground because he lives full time in Portugal, is really the third arm of the festival that we could not do anything without, who
Wow.
also is amazing because he'll be in the car driving somewhere listening to Beethoven and he'll call us and we'll be like, hey, so this second movement, what do you guys think about this? And
Oh, I
we're
love
like,
that. I didn't know that about him.
10 years later, he's so invested and loves photographing the lessons and concerts because he feels like he knows it. It's something that he also is totally invested in. It's an artistic life that he was so far from that now is close to him. So, all to say, talking to people, you never know who's going to give you an idea, who's going to offer support, who's just going to say a couple words of encouragement to help you get through your to do list. Um,
Mhm. We all
and
need that.
it's it's the easiest thing to do and doesn't take anything away from anybody just to say, "Hey, this is my thought. Like, this is what I'm working on right now. This is what I'm doing." And you'll be surprised at how they respond.
That's so beautiful, and I love hearing about how people step into roles, like hearing about Andres, just evolving into this third
Yeah.
arm, as you're saying, and learning new skills. It sounds like you've learned so many things, evolving over 10 years of learning to run a festival. I think sometimes we don't realize how much we've evolved or had to learn because it's on the go. Like you said, we're just figuring it out as we go, but we do figure it out. And that's also the really fun thing. I mean, I had Deanna on the podcast last week because we just had 5 years of TFA.
Yeah, well,
And I said,
congrats.
thank you. We're actually really proud. We did nothing to celebrate, but we're really proud. I said, like, what's changed for us? And she said, we got smarter. And I thought that was just such a funny answer because I'm like, I think that's true.
Yeah, yeah,
And it sounds like you've grown so much with communication and organization and handling conflict on teams and cultural differences and articulating yourself and sharing ideas. And then, I know you guys do a ton of brand sponsorships. Last year, I got to ride around in this really nice car with like Porto Piano Fest branded across it. Like, it's so awesome. And I
yeah,
also wanted to touch on how you guys have so many local relationships that you've really invested in and built, like the museum, for example, where you guys host concerts for the
yeah.
participants.
We're very, very fortunate to have the support of the city of Porto.
Yeah.
Um, and so they help us and support us in providing some really beautiful spaces. It's called the Romantic Museum is one of those spaces where we use their inside the museum and outside where we had an outdoor concert this past year, which was just so amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and you can imagine our stress trying to plan an outdoor concert in August where the weather is questionable. It might be hot, it might be raining. We're
Yeah.
dealing with acoustic instruments, but that's where, people have these ideas and people say, no, it's going to work. And we had to trust our supporters, and it worked so beautifulully.
Wait, do you have, like,
Um,
a tent on standby, or what is the plan B?
yes, we do have a tent for sun all the time during the day while it's being tuned. And then if we needed to move indoors, instead of 400 people, it probably would have just been 80, but that
Okay,
was the
got it.
plan.
Got it, got it, got it.
Um, yeah, so there's always an indoor backup, even though it's much more contained.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Nuno is our local Portuguese, of course, even though I feel like it really is my second home.
Mm.
But we love being in Porto. We love the
Yeah,
city. We love the
yeah,
people there. We love seeing it change year after year.
yeah.
Um, and part of what we want to do is bring beautiful experiences, bring music, bring people together through music and wine, but it's primarily music. Bring people together through these events in this city that we all just love so, so much because we see the potential in the resources that already exist within the city and we want to utilize what's already there. So that's our idea and being part of the community as the community evolves too.
That's really beautiful. I love how you've just articulated this so nicely. I didn't actually know the vision behind the festival, and I've come twice already, so it's so nice to hear you explain it so beautifully. What's, like, one moment that you look back on over the last 10 years, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so proud of that." Like, I just standout moment to you?
I really think it was that outdoor concert
Yeah, yeah,
this past year. Again, our team, we stress so much when we have to do outdoor things, and we do a
yeah.
couple during the festival, but this was a new space in a place that we weren't sure about. But things that I think we're all really proud of, it's not just that people showed up, because that's also great when people show up.
Yes.
But the fact that we felt as a team very in control of
Mm,
the concert because we had talked about why we were there, what we were doing. We had such a clear idea of like, okay, this is the artist that's going to be there. This is the intent of the concert. This is how we're going to promote it online. This is how we're going to talk about it. And like, this is contingency plan A, B, and C, right? Which luckily we didn't really need to use. Um, but seeing people show up and hearing people talk about it later when the concert's over, I had somebody mention that concert to me when I was in Portugal a couple weeks ago,
oh, wow.
just bringing it up again. And this was an all Bach concert outside, so it's like summer stage, but make it Bach, which people were like, "What are you doing?" But we had this idea. We were like, "We're just gonna go for it. We're not gonna be apologetic about it. Yes, we're gonna have one pianist. He's only gonna play a Bach program, and it's gonna be at sunset, and people are gonna like it." And we just had so much conviction about it that when it was actually happening, I was kind of emotional. Like, wow, this
Mm,
really, like, people are here and people are enjoying it and seeing that the seats were filled and there were young kids, like standing behind the piano because it's this open outdoor space and fixated on this pianist, not just for 2 seconds, but for half an hour, standing there. Like, really, we have photos of the families that were just there, people standing on walls and sitting on every possible surface, somebody that brought blankets and popcorn
That's
and like that.
amazing.
It was just such a beautiful thing to think this is music that we love and that we are so convinced of. Acoustic piano music by Bach, and 400 people from all walks of life, from Porto, from everywhere in the world, tourists, families, young people, our participants, old people, like everyone's in this space together. And that's just what we love seeing so, so, so much. Um, and it really makes all the work worth it when we see people just enjoying what we enjoy so much. So that was a
Yeah.
moment.
It's incredible what you're describing, and I think it's because you've managed to bring the music to the people. And I think one of the biggest mistakes at the classical music industry is that we expect people to come to us, and it's like, we have the high elevated art, and you need to understand it and appreciate it and come into our concert halls, and a lot of people are intimidated to come into those settings, and you brought it to the people. Like, you bring it outdoors, they're allowed to be there with their popcorn. I mean, you're kind of breaking a lot of rules with what's traditional or allowed, but you're still keeping the integrity of the music and the concert setting, and I think that's what can make it much more, able for people to receive this.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I mentioned, our team and our full-time team, but also our staff members, our part-time team, we're all different kinds of people. And we always think like if we like this, someone else is gonna like this. If not just like myself, of course, I'm well versed in the classical music world and I like to sit quietly and not talk to anybody. And like I love that setting too. But
Lock ourselves in a room for 8 hours.
but we have staff that volunteer, for example, or that help us out, and they're surfing on the beach and they still want to come to help us usher a concert at the end of their literal surf day in Porto. And we're like, yes, please come. And
Yeah.
they'll bring their friends. And even if they don't like it, they talk about it. It's something for people to talk about, something for people to think about. And even if they're like, whoa, I have no idea what just happened, but that was kinda interesting. I sat outside and there was this guy and he was doing his thing, and that's how they'll talk about the piano music, and someone else's reaction would be like, "Oh, no, what do you mean doing his thing? What do you mean just piano? Like, this was the magnificent composer X," you know? But we like getting that sort of feedback. We love that internally, we feel like our staff and our team are gonna invite their friends. That's what we want. Like, that's kind of our first testing point
Hmm.
for us when we think about programming and we think about the events and why we do some certain things that we do.
That's beautiful. Yeah, you guys have created such a beautiful experience and festival, and I've just loved hearing you share more in depth about all of the aspects and
Thanks.
everything that goes into it. I mean, I think we touched on 10% of what goes into it. So, congratulations to you for all of your hard work and what you guys are doing every year. This year,
Thank
it's
you.
August 1st through the 12th. And how can people apply? How can they find you, follow you?
Yes, portopianofest.com. We still have our applications open for our masterclass program and for our auditor program if you want to come and watch lessons and concerts but without playing, or if you want to take lessons with our fantastic artist faculty and guest artists. PortoPianoFest.com is a place to do it, or on all social media platforms /Porto Piano Fest.
Amazing. So, Mariel, at the end of every episode, we ask for an action point. What's something that someone could do who's listening to this after this hugely inspiring the first time I've ever teared up on the podcast, by the way. I've been doing this for like I've never cried before. So this is like deep. I'm very, very privileged to have you. What's something that someone can do after listening to this episode?
First, as I was saying, talk to people about your dreams and ideas. Just one person. Tell them what you are thinking. And another thing is to know that everyone is a multifaceted person. So even
Mm,
if you think you are this, doesn't mean you don't have potential to do other things and to explore other areas that you could be great at.
that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thanks for what you shared.
Thank you
And for
for having
everybody
me.
listening, make sure you go follow Porto Piano Fest. And Marielle, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michelle. This is great.
And everybody listening, be fearless.